I titled this private just because this is a channel that I've been charting my process of going through, or actually had just been activated 2017. And this channel has stayed open, and there was even chatter about it over in some newsletters in Saudi Arabia. There was. I've got screenshots. When I went on YouTube because of my mission here. And this is a message to chosen ones and earth angels and even the ascended now, but right now I'm addressing all y'all out there like me that have witnessed in our own unique way and walked and lived and seen and witnessed and recalled everything that we were here to walk as a leader to the collective that would be the human race in some sense or form since 2017. There was a cosmic reset that the ones who and the races of beings who remembered and kept count of large macro time cycles and birthing cycles of astronomy. Those of us that I'm talking to right now, I'm even talking for you to help explain who we are. How is it that so many of us came to know so much information? And then, as those of us who are earth angels and chosen ones, our lives have been one traumatic episode after another in some sense or form. Because in this earthly plane, the wisdom and unfortunately the pain and unfortunately the heartache and unfortunately in having to even at times withdraw, completely withdraw from whatever organization or structure you're humans having to deal with in a human form, with all the while knowing when you're in that organizational structure what it really is, how it's really operating, and you can hear every subconscious thought in the building while you're in it. But being the one who's the earth angel, and the ones of us this, and of the collective's calling chosen ones. And hi to whoever's out there. Thank you for joining me. How and why we're here and we're in those situations. I had an event in my journey that I had prepared myself for. Because see, those of us who walked through this last, because see what happened 2017, that eclipse, and that eclipse was lined up right over the United States. And I didn't even know this. I mean, I knew it was lined up over the United States, but I didn't know at the time when that great American eclipse happened how very cosmic birthing cycle it was. Because and we hear music written about it, black hole sun, black moon Lilith. You can even there, I mean, Lilith is associated to this too, only because when the physics lined up on that Lionsgate, man, eclipse 2017, what it did is all the recessive DNA that had been dormant down here, and everybody on the planet, if you were attached to anything that was on the dark side of it, then it pulled us through. And then ever since then, we've been clearing and turning on the planets, and cleaning the planets and retuning the DNA. And see, each one of us have walked a separate journey to get here, whether or not the healing path was your path or you fell into it. Because that's basically, in a way, how my journey even ended up. Because we have such big missions here. But as you're walking it, and knowing and seeing and witnessing, and for some of us, even having precog recognition, and or if not, one of our friends does, right? Because if you are and have gotten to the point where you're lucky enough to have friends around you that are clear enough to be able to hold some of this with you. And if you're not, know that has been done, so it is possible to have those relationships again, just by utilizing your new skill set and tool set, but then having to open our hearts to receive it. And that's a whole nother thing for us earth angels, and chosen ones because we're warriors. The mindset has been a warrior since the get, in some sense of the form. No, and not blade fighting even, because it goes way deeper than that. Way deeper than that. Because those of us who are earth angels and chosen ones, we know that we've been assisting and even as best we can in modifying the wars that are happening now, because this goes back to Kali, and those collectives of energetics are here on the ground, embodied in earth angels and chosen ones. But it's mixed in with your personality and who you are, which is a separate set of data, isn't it? So, if your frequency goes up into a layer that is attached to, I don't, Archangel Gabriel, let's just say Gabriel, but then Kali would be a flip version of that on a macro plateau that falls underneath, more like the any of the deities that the Buddha constructs conjure, because they do. This is what earth angels and chosen ones are. Depending on who you are, you can go into those layers and channel those forces. You can. We do. This is what angels are. It's like, as I'm, because it's so tough. I'm here to speak for, all of us who don't have much of a voice right now because of the systems, even not even programs, systems, just even technology platforms that in many ways attacked us for coming out and telling people the truth of things, no matter what it is that we were speaking up for or telling. Especially in the past few years, it is what it was. It's how it always happened. And for those of us who, in the past few years, have been walking the timeline changes that the healing collective did in 2018, 2019. Because see, there were different, as you started embodying in different layers, because there was always this divine timeline and divine stories, and we all knew that. We all knew that. It was just something inside of us that you couldn't tell us wasn't there. And it was gravitating us to move around and do things in order to get us on our appropriate mission and timeline to do whatever we needed to do to catch up from here to here, because in the end, and for the longest period of time, it was going to be better off to have it happen that way. Now, for those of us who have been walking the timelines, and you had a collective character, and you're a collective character, and I'm talking about the characters that were written in the Bible, that were written in Kabbalah, that were written in whatever. I mean, hell, we've even had a battle Harry Potter. Hi, Rachel. Oh, I've been meaning to text you, see how you were, but you're probably feeling my energy. I had to get through this yesterday. Because whenever the collective reads these stories over time, and we are in the energy of revelation, but nobody kept writing the book. And the burning of the stories, and the changing of the stories, and the phonetic spells that were on the stories, and then the folklore that was taught on the stories, because why? At least when it manifests, then you're supposed to, as a human, be able to look at it and go, oh wow, whoa, it's really here, it's really here. The more ancient the red root races, the more times the story has been told. And those characters, and even in this last 3 years, because of technology and because we've got a hydrogen collider breaking everything down to see how it restarts, and it was done. Ta-da! It was redone. It was. Now, those of us who are earth angels and chosen ones walked those stories. We did. I mean, if you go back, and I mean, hell, the Christ. If your name is Kristen, this is why I call myself Chastia now. This is why Prince turned his name to a symbol. Because every single time that someone says, Christ help me, or in Christ's blood, or in Christ's body of Christ, and it really is the consciousness of Christ, it is consciousness of all of us who have been clearing this and walking these stories over and over and over and over and over to a collective that can't see it, but not only that, to us that couldn't see it either. It's like now, as an earth angel or a chosen one, your life is not going to make sense from a day-to-day perspective. And what I'm and this is overcoming obstacles, because our emotion is so powerful. Oh my gosh. Our fear, our love, our focus is so powerful. That's what each one of us that have walked through this in some way, cuz we were stripped of, in whatever way that most beings would get from A to D, okay? An earth angel or a chosen one was stripped of every single connection, whatever that was, a ladder to each one. So whether it be that it was money, the money, a payment that got you from here to here, or someone introduced you from here to here, or whatever it was, we had to be stripped of those connections and rebirth new ones, and still make it there on time. Basically, basically. Why? Because we had to rebirth new ones. Because they were deleted for everyone, not just us. Because those of us that are chosen ones, especially in DNA lines, we're here to do that. It's like once we birth that new connection, then it's a new connection and it can never be altered again per the old. But why I'm saying that is that we have to walk it, and we had to have so much taken away from us that in whatever way it played out, right? In whatever way it played out, we had so much taken away from us in order to show us who we were too. And we've learned over the past 4 years, all of us that are walking these timeline shifts, that when we call it the tower, right? The tower moment, where number one, you can clearly see once you get past the 3D human impact of something has changed, something that was in your original plan or in your old life, because for those of us who are earth angels and chosen ones that have walked through this gate, that have been able to hold our energy, that have been able to fight off, that know that we cleared ancestral lines, that know that and are seeing even synchronicities now that our manifestations are coming in, knowing that there's a bigger plan here, especially for all of us that have been able to come through such darkness. Now once we open up and just start communicating, we can pull each other up even. But the people that are in your physical life from before you changed keep wanting to make you what you used to be, and seem to, for some reason, that's why we're talking about it, because if we just talk about it and start explaining what's happening to us, how we read this different information, and even what happened with me doing those videos in Anaheim, and how crazy it seemed and it got. But yeah, it happened to a lot of us. It happened to the entire human race. We were able to at least put it back together. There's so many of it. It's those of us who walk it that are earth angels and chosen ones, and realize that I'm using the definition of chosen ones in my world now for a being in a body that's walking on land that's tuned now to receive data in a walking frame, in a walking character, in a walking framework, because all the other rivers and all the other waterfalls, or whatever, whichever one is flowing to you. And if you're an earth angel or you're a chosen one in the terms that I'm stating it, because I know there's some shadow stuff with the name chosen one that goes back to like ritualistic stuff, which is a part of how chosen ones DNA were made, some of them. the amount of suffering in the lines, and I'm talking about throughout time, in 1,000 years, 100 years. So many in our DNA lines have been sacrificed, have been tortured, have been the ones killing the other one because of some crazy reason. It's Cain and Abel. It's in every freaking story throughout anything that you'd call spirituality. My point is to the whole world. It did birth something. It birthed it inside your human DNA. You know, this even goes back to the Levites and Yahshua washing the feet of the 12 apostles, that they took on the karma, they took on the DNA. Boom. What happened? A race was hybridized in order to put them all together to clear it. It has to be made available here. You know, is it that crazy or insane to think that when everybody in their souls, in their bedrooms, inside you, not out loud. I'm not talking to what you say to people around you in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I'm talking about what you were saying inside yourself. Any being around here that something wasn't right, something happened, something's going on. It just depends on how long you've been here. If you've seen the collective go through a shift, larger cycles of time, larger cycles of birthing, who these ones are going to be that's going to make it to this little halo up here that can channel and birth and hold it and body and communicate it. And this is what musicians and actors and they know all about this, because this is, my journey led me on talking about and being involved with in a way. But that's my point. This ain't over yet. This story is still evolving. And I'm sitting here today and I was just thinking about all of this and how and there really is a superior race of being down here now, and it ain't got nothing to do with what skin suits you have. It ain't got nothing to do with that. In fact, that's the one thing that it don't have anything to do with necessarily. But it's been the trying to stop the evolution from happening to the human race in whatever form, because you want to be unconscious, or because you don't want to have to make decisions, or because you want to blame it on somebody else, or because you don't want to do the work, or what. I mean, whatever it is that would make somebody want to block every human being from processing exactly what their good Lord gave them. But in trying to do that, what's happened is that it has developed a superior race of being. Now, the good news is those of us who are earth angels and chosen ones that have walked this. We've been involved with making the changes in the brain. We're the ones who lined up the constellations to do it. We've been involved with making and having to make hard 3D decisions that the muggles don't necessarily understand. Why would you do that? Well, because I know what's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now. So it's a chess game when you're coming through these big shift ups, and right now as a collective we're going through a massive one because of the amount of time that we changed. Because realize that every single time, if you're in the spiritual community, so because I'm talking to my earth angels and I'm talking to my leaders, because we ain't got very many to talk to. And just hearing me talk about how I'm still stead in my faith, knowing that the constructs that have been refusing to listen to us and just put a crazy sticker on it are over. Now, but we're still having to walk and bridge over and become in our fullest what we know we just proved and fought on the etherics to get back on the X on the stage that belonged to us to begin with. And as the new story starts coming in, the new story that's written with us as the character, not somebody else, but it's still the same story. It's still your story. This is how no one can take your spot, no one can take what is yours unless you let them. And we had to learn a lot of lessons about how that was being done etherically in order to even make a soul journey possible down here for the human race. We know that. We know that in the next couple of years, everyone else going to see more of it because that's what's been happening in the past 4 because we've been writing it. But when you're underneath it and it's like, and you have, I what I hung on to was really the last connection that I had to the old me. And it's a deep and personal one. And it's not that it's gone. See, this is where those of us who are coming here to change a lot, and especially as maternals that saw so much of what was really happening down here, we had to make some real deep, 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 deep decisions that nobody should ever have to make. Knowing that if we stayed connected for just these few, then possibly it could cause all this. They'd inherit all this, and no way, no way. We's here to clean this up. We wasn't here to hand it off to our children. That's what they did to us. We're done with that. We cleared back to our grandfathers to make sure. And it's to be in the middle of it, to be in it, to where I understand when people hear some of this information. And I mean, right now I pulled down some of those videos of when I was in Anaheim because I can't even watch them, like it. I'm proud of myself from showing up and communicating and getting what needed to be done in that time communicated and documented. And I believe, well, not even I believe because we witnessed it. I mean, as we put it back together, we've got even all the points in the hand and the acupuncture points that were dealing with the brain stem. And I mean, so much data on how to assist when this energy starts coming in your field. Because whether you're trying to prove or not, you're going to be the energy and frequency of the earth is all coming up. Everything's being flushed. You have to clear your energy. You've got to clear your body. You're going to have to before you leave this realm. But when those different frequencies come in, it's kind of like a hummingbird being shot into lava. And then the hummingbird getting stuck in the lava, having to die in the lava, having to freaking okay, if I hum hard enough, maybe I can take over the volcano. Oh shit, I just hummed hard enough and I just took over the volcano. This is a funny analogy, right? And then as soon as the hummingbird comes out of the volcano, because that took a while. Now the hummingbird is like, zip! It gets frozen in ice. It's like, what? Now I'm frozen in ice. Now I've got to melt all the ice. Okay, well, I just came out of the lava. So how can I assist that? And then the hummingbird, because that is how, because we had alterations going on with vaccinations and DNA in the middle of our journey, y'all. So it's like it became all live, but then what the vaccinations were doing was sealing up individuals into different stories. And what you cannot tell us earth angels and chosen ones is what isn't real, because we know so many people that the exact same thing happened. Not only that, the exact same thing in a freaking sequence that it takes four of us to tell the full story, because every single light worker and every single spiritual worker that's been cutting timelines off your DNA lines, when they came in to heal, one of us, and it could have been you, got hit with all this ancient information. They call it a mantle, for then us to reenact the whole thing. So it's kind of like, there you get the story, boom, and it reenacts in your DNA, and then you're flowing, and boom, 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 you're all of a sudden dealing with. Sometimes you don't know that it's history in your family until after you've lived through it. Other time, and then you find out. But all those scenarios will come through to see if you have mastered it, and you're basically, what do they called it? What did they call in the Hunger Games? You're not the initiate, but you're the one in the line that then is chosen to make the right decision and do the right thing this time. And a lot, and then unbeknownst to you, you just get thrown. Well, it's just like the lion's den. That comes in two different variations in my world. You get thrown into the lion's den, and then you don't realize that you're projecting out the story of your forefathers in order to prove that y'all all learned your lesson. And the more that you, the earth angel, and the chosen one are connected into all the forefathers because trust, they're from different, all the, like grandpa on this side and grandpa on this side and grandpa on this side, they might get along, but they got different freaking reasons why you should move right instead of left, especially us, mega star seeds that had DNA, because that's the whole point. Whole point was always to make it fair, put it all together, and walk in tandem, not for anyone to override somebody, right? This count that all of us came through as first waivers, because we really are. We could call us the first waivers standing. That is what we've healed through. And so we know why grandpa lost everything in the courthouse. We know why so and so lost even or miscarried the babies in the family. We know it's because we've been connected to those lines and we haven't lived out the whole entire story, but because it just depends on what all lines you were chosen to represent. And this plays out naturally in the collective, just like it pays out in payment in the entertainment industry, because all that is them putting a character and putting stuff around to play out in a bigger play too. Each of those characters, if they're under what studio, they're working a bigger play. Same thing. That's how it works. NFL, the draft, same thing. But it happens organically in the collective, and this was a cosmic reset and a rebirth of the planet in order to cut any of those connections that had been overriding a natural birth process so that the human body could get the frequency high enough to merge the right and left brain to be able to manifest and create from there. And the systems that get paid for gating and holding down systems aren't too happy about us overriding their system. Okay, well, y'all need to get new jobs. And the justice system is a joke. It's pay for play, is what the lawyer system is. And the Harvard system that your law is based off of is all Greek spells. And it has nothing to do with telling the truth and getting to the heart of the matter. And so, just as a collective, no matter what that is, we ask. And if you want to thumbs up this video, maybe, or put a heart in the comments, or put a heart in the chat, just that you agree that we call on the ascended and we call on the divine timeline to disrupt the current justice system, to cause less chaos, and to form in a way that is just to not just people who can afford attorneys to manipulate some words in order to paint a picture of whatever they want. So, how can, and this isn't an answer that we have right now, this is the beauty of the new world, too. It's just us thinking about these things and then us putting it in our thought process and trying to knowing what we know about the court system and justice system and what our experience has been with maybe having money to afford lawyers and not, having to defend yourself without attorneys or not, or seeing other people's lives disrupted because the court system was used to attack because you didn't have money, whatever it is. How can those things be adjusted in the collective? What are some ways that we can assist because it needs to be addressed? And so we just ask for that justice to start brewing in our collective. And that's really all I wanted to talk about. I was just downloading my experience and letting y'all know that from everything that I see, we are on track. 2017, in a way, is going to be repeated. What I'm sensing is 2017 to 2020, in a way, is going to be repeated, but it's cleaned up and it's set to wherever we went into that eclipse in 2017 and everything went to shadow. Now everything's gone all the way out and we've walked it all back and connected the timelines to the tent post with everything when everything connected in the earth and all that, we did all that. And now it's vibrating and is in the same energy of the things that were happening back then, in a way, but the natural even power that we had was significant. We all were channeling it into rebirthing at that time, but now we don't have to do that. So it's like we're being popped back in from the eclipse, kind of. And you know it's lining back up for the and to repeat 2017 to 2020 over the next 3 years, because we won't have another specific eclipse until about 3 years from now. And 2025 is just a massive year from a lot of things that are even set to take place in the White House, and a lot of information was set to come out in 2025. Problem was, we was 15 months early. But anywho, I just wanted to come on and let y'all know I'm not going anywhere. And whatever you perceive to have lost, just realize that for whatever ever reason it is, it's best on a higher perspective, and then don't let anything stop you from keeping it going. Take the time to heal, take the time, don't be rushed, and just be you and be the fullest you that you can be. And that's all you got to do now. But if you're like me and you know the fullest of you, you're like, oh my God, okay, so I had to prepare the world for my entrance, basically.